world. It's me, Queen Eimer, and I'm going to do 20 more days left. I'm weird. Okay, don't forget the merch contest. It can be on my Twitter. It will be. It can be on my Instagram. Well, it's pretty much on those two. Go check out. Tell me what you want on the thing, and if you want to join. Don't forget we are doing. And don't forget to look at the merch. Please look at the merch. Okay. A Very Dreary Christmas is what we're doing by Dorothy Ann Drarry. The chapter is called Midnight Mistletoe. Here we go. Midnight Mistletoe. Professor Drarry. Oh boy. Draco slipped out of his office and down the empty dungeon hallways. Heading up through the maze of stairs, his cloak pulled tightly around himself. He made no sound, thanks to a few careful placing silencing spells, and the hood to hide his hair. The only thing better than a late night trip to the kitchens for warm biscuits and tea was catching students out after curfew. The castle was riddled with enchanted mistletoes, so Draco was careful to check every doorway he came to. Minerva wasn't the type to put up that sort of thing, and none of the other teachers owned up to it. Although Draco was suspicious of Flitwick, that sort of charm work was right up his alley. It was either that or Peeves, who would certainly love putting them up, though it was hard to imagine where he would have found the damn things. Draco carefully skirted the edge of the large entranceway leading to the main hallway and thus to the kitchens. When his foot caught on something, he nearly tripped, stumbling forward, just barely catching himself, the opposite wall. He spun around and glaring up and down the hallway, ready to take points and give a detention, but no one was there. He looked down and saw a foot connected to most of a leg, but before it disappeared. Draco frowned, leaned down, and grabbed at the edge where the leg disappeared, and encountering the thin, silky material of invisibility cloak, which could only belong to one person. Draco jerked the cloak off. Are you trying to kill somebody, Potter? Potter lifted his head, blinking his eyes, opened like he had been sleeping. He focused on Draco and groaned, his head falling back with a thump. Merlin, why did it have to be you? Draco narrowed his eyes. Potter's foot was stuck in the middle of the floor. Middle of the floor, flat to the stone, so he had to keep his knee bent. He slowly sat up, scrubbing his hands through his hair and leaving it standing in every direction. He pointed up with a grimace. Draco looked up and saw a small bundle of mistletoe on the top of the archway. He looked back at Potter, already braced for whatever Draco was going to say, a wince already on his face. Draco raised an eyebrow. Are you a complete moron? Potter sighed. No, Malfoy. Draco said faintly. That would be explain why you had still here rather than having say sent a Patronus, which is one of the specialties. Flitwick is gone for this weekend, and Minerva is... Potter sighed and She helped me with the last 2 times. Draco stared at him. She told me in no certain terms that I was to wake her for this again, unless I wanted to be in charge of every detention until spring. And the reason you can't free yourself, Draco asked, with growing in disbelief. Surely you were watching when Minerva removed the charms. I was! Harry snapped, and he frowned, took his wand and pointed it at the mistletoe with a murmured incantation and complicated swirl in his wand. His wand shot some blue and gold sparks in the air. I must have the wand movements wrong. I swear this is how she did it. You. Draco shook his head at a loss of words. I'm not exactly the charms professor, am I? Potter said impatiently. If you're so clever, you can enchant it then. Draco sniffed imperiously. I'm not paid to save idiots from a children's charm. Great. So you don't know either. You did not say that. Just give me my cloak back and bugger off, Potter said, and lay back on the floor, muttering under his breath. I'll look forward to you mocking me for this for the rest of my life. Of course I will, Draco said. Only you could do something this stupid 3 times, no less. Potter groaned. I only wanted a sandwich. Give him that sandwich, bro. Do one thing good in your life. That reminded Draco that his own tea and biscuits were waiting. He turned to leave and hesitated. His back still turned to Potter. He said, There's more than one way to free someone from mistletoe. He waited, expecting Potter to mock him or laugh. Instead, Potter asked, What? Sounded perplexed. Harry sighed. It was far too late to be testing his heart like this. He turned back around and held out his hand. Hurry up. I haven't got all night. I don't. Potter shook his head with a frown as he sat back up. Draco bit his lip and walked over to Potter, kneeling next to him, and pulled his hood down. Potter grabbed his arm to try and push him back. Wait, you're going to be stuck too. Shut up, Potter, Draco said, taking Potter's face in both hands and kissing him. He pulled away slowly, feeling dazed, Potter's hair brushing over his fingertips as he dropped his hands. Potter stared at him like Draco had stunned him. Draco stood up and swept down the hallway as quickly as he could. Wait! Potter called after him, scrambling up and running after Draco. Draco cursed under his breath, hoping the castle was dark enough to hide his flushed face. Potter caught his sleeve and pulled him to stop. Quite unfairly, Potter's darker skin showed no signs of distress. Potter looked away, biting his lip. Yes? Draco asked, fighting the urge to just take off and run. I Potter broke off again, his voice bobbing, and as he swallowed hard. Well, thanks. Draco scowled at him. It's fine. He pulled his arm free, straightening his robes as he hurried on his way towards the kitchens. Draco closed his eyes and fought down a sigh as Potter trotted after him. Where are you going? Where are you going? Potter asked. Draco didn't answer. Potter looked around and seemed to catch on. Oh, the kitchens? That was where I was headed, before everything. Draco didn't respond. I suppose I should have guessed that since it's not your night to be on patrols, Potter went on, and you were headed this way. Draco tickled the pair of large portraits and stepped inside. This late at night, only one or two house elves were in the kitchens, and they perked up at the sight of Harry and Draco. Both had apparently been there often that they didn't even have to request what they wanted. One elf immediately put on the tea, and another began putting together a sandwich compressed of looked like leftovers from dinner. Draco carefully sat on one of the small stools around the large work table, and wasn't terribly surprised when Potter sat next to him. He was somewhat surprised that Potter seemed to have replaced his talkativeness with nervousness and fiddling with his hair and bouncing one leg under the table. I'm fairly certain you're only making it worse, Draco said, putting up his teacup and resting it under his chin. What? Potter jumped. Draco smiled faintly. Your hair, Potter. The more you touch it, the worse it gets. Potter jerked his hand away from his head. Yes, it does do that. If I had known kissing you would distress you this much, I would have done it ages ago. Draco had said, unable to take the bitterness entirely out of his tone. It's not... Potter stopped and pulled his hand through his hair again, like he was half a mind to pull it out. He had half the mind to pull it out. It is a bit the opposite, actually. Draco nearly dropped his cup, rattling it quite badly against the saucer as he tried to set it down. The opposite, Draco repeated. I know that you didn't mean anything by it, Potter said quickly. It was the clever thing to do, and I... Shut up, Potter. Draco reached up and, taking Potter's hand before it could vandalize his hair again, and placed it on the table. It took nearly all his self-control to keep his hand over Potter's. Potter looked from his hands to Draco. So, he smiled hesitantly, I can call you next time I get caught under the mistletoe? Draco flushed faintly and held Potter's hand a little tighter. If you're stupid enough to get stuck under one again, and it's before midnight. Draco finished marking his last paper and threw it on top of the other pile. Standing up and stretching with a groan, he grabbed his cloak as he left his room and headed up to the kitchen for something sweet as a reward for being subject to his student stupidity for the evening. He had hardly made it out of the dungeons when a foot stuck to the wall. His foot stuck to the wall. Draco barely managed to lurch back and keep from falling on his face. Getting the other foot caught as well, Draco looked up in disbelief at the merry little spring of green and white hanging cheekily over the middle of the doorway. He had thought they were all gone, removed by the head mistress after a rather unfortunate incident with a bloke who had tried to kiss a girl against her wishes. She must have missed one, and it was Peeves doing it, the dreaded poltergeist. Draco used the charm of Minerva had taught them to remove the other mistletoe, but it had no effect. He tried a few other times. In a pure cue of rage, hit it with a blasted charm, but the dreaded plant didn't bulge. Draco would have sworn it looked even healthier. He looked down at his wand with a sigh. He had never cast a corporal Patronus. He checked his pocket half-heartedly. A soft crickle drew his attention, and he pulled out a folded piece of parchment. Having nothing better to do, Draco sunk down onto the floor, carefully cut the paper into a beautiful square, and folded it into a small crane. It felt a bit like putting a note into a bottle and sending it to sea. As he charmed it to fly and gently blow on it and sent it flying down to the hallway, Draco wrapped his arms around his knees. He would just have to wait until someone found him, and hope whoever it was wasn't the sort to gossip. Draco wasn't cast a warming charm spell over him when the floor got too cold. Resting his head on his knees, running footsteps coming closer but made Draco jerk his head up, shocked to see Potter coming down the stairs. He was wearing a t-shirt and joggers, seemingly untouched by the castle cold. Draco hurriedly to his feet, cheeks growing hot with embarrassment. "Not a word, Potter," he said as soon as Potter was close enough. Potter grinned, biting his bottom lip as he looked up at the mistletoe. Draco shook his head. "How do I know I thought you said not one word," Potter said, raising an eyebrow. "You know what I mean." Potter opened his hand to show Draco's little paper crane. It slipped under the door. "How did you know it was mine?" Draco asked. Potter shrugged. Carefully slipped the crane into his pocket like it was something precious. "It's not the first crane you've sent me." Draco stared at him. He could hardly remember it. It had been so long, and they had been on very bad terms. Potter smiled. "So can I kiss you now?" Draco felt himself start to flush and frowned. I know. Shut up, Potter, he said. No. No. I know. Shut up, Potter, he said in a poor imitation of Draco. Don't presume you know what I'm going to say, Draco said. He reached out and Potter stepped closer, letting Draco grasp the front of his shirt. And pulled him closer. Draco's hands caught Draco's hips, pulling him close. As soon as his lips met, Draco found himself backed against the door frame. Potter pressed tight to his front as he kissed, and Draco with a groan. Draco clung to him like a drowning man, shirt fisted tightly in his hands, as he curled the other around Potter's neck and into his hair, kissing Potter until he was breathless. What were you going to say then? Potter asked, when they had both paused for breath, still tightly wrapped up in one another. What? Draco asked, dazed, transfixed by Potter's green eyes. Potter smiled and leaned forward to steal another kiss. You said, don't presume I know what you're going to say. Draco sighed and, carting his hand through Potter's hair, he hadn't had anything to say then, but he did now. Rather than letting Mistletoe do all the work, just ask me out. How about now? Draco said. Oh no. No! It messed up. No, I don't care about that. Okay. Draco smiled faintly in disbelief. No, it's the middle of the night. Yeah, but I can't wait a second longer to kiss you again. Draco felt his heart stutter in his chest. His cheeks got getting hot. I suppose it can't be helped then. Potter grinned and kissed him again. Hey, this is so good. Oh my gosh, it's 22 minutes already. I have to end it. Sorry. Okay, guys, I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a great day. Also, don't forget the contest, and do not forget the merch. 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 Don't forget my socials if you ever want to talk to me and give me ideas. It's down there below, babe. Babe, what the heck? Okay, guys. If you have any suggestions, go down below. Tell me. Talk about it. Also, thank you guys for being always awesome and talking to me and giving me suggestions. Always love them here. Always love the truth. We need that. Okay, guys. I love you guys so much. Be happy, be healthy, and always be loving. Bye-bye.